This is the story of the cat who got himself adopted, found love, and shared it with other cats who also needed that love. The first time I saw him hanging from my window screen, I could hardly believe my eyes. He'd somehow learned to climb up the side of the building and cling there like a little gray climber stuck to a patch of mesh, all long limbs and earnest eyes, staring straight at me as if the world had boiled down to that single window and one impossible mission: get my attention. He did it every day. Not once, not sometimes. Every single day he'd appear on that mesh and hang, waiting, watching, refusing to leave until I acknowledged him. It was one of those small, absurd miracles that makes you stop whatever you're doing and grin into the absurdity of the world. There are dogs that fetch and birds that sing. This cat had a performance art piece, and it was dedicated to me. Before he discovered that the window screen was a way to get noticed, I'd already run into him around the neighborhood. He wasn't shy about approaching people. The moment he saw me, he performed a full-on flop. Belly up, paws in the air, tail flicking like an attention-grabbing flag, eyes wide and bright with expectation. Every cat has its own script for attention. He said, "Please scratch my belly now, human." I wasn't made of stone. Who resists a belly offer like that? I would crouch, give him the scratches, and feel the vibration of his purr spread through him like a small engine caught in sunlight. He was a magnet for affection, and I, apparently, was made of iron. The neighborhood was crowded with strays. At least 20 of them roamed the blocks and alleys. But he singled me out. Out of a chorus of mews and furtive tail flicks, he became the most persistent suitor. If I stepped outside, there he'd be, perched on a stoop, nosing at my ankles, waiting for me to pause and give him the lap he had clearly already decided was his. He would leap into my lap at the smallest opportunity, nestle in like he belonged, and was merely reminding me of a long-standing arrangement. It felt less like adopting and more like being adopted. He wasn't just choosing to be near me. He was choosing me. I hesitated, because of course you hesitate. It's strange to suddenly consider bringing a life that has been a part of your life. I worried he might belong to someone else. He was so friendly and well-mannered that I couldn't shake the thought that maybe some elderly neighbor had lost him and was quietly grieving. The last thing I wanted was to steal somebody else's special friend. So I did the reasonable thing. I asked around. I knocked on doors. I chatted with neighbors. I scanned posters. And gradually, pieced together like a slow puzzle, I learned that he was one of many strays. No one claimed him. No one had been looking for him. He was, bafflingly and wonderfully, his own. Naming him felt like the second piece of the puzzle. He needed a name that fit his goofy, stubborn, affectionate manner. I chose Liam because it felt like a small, soft name that would sit well in my mouth and in our home. I took him to the vet to be checked, vaccinated, and to make sure his insides were prepared for the new life I was planning to offer. The first time he stepped across my apartment threshold after the vet, he transformed in an almost physical way. The street-worn edges smoothed, his confidence reorganized into something domestic and proud. He made a beeline for the bed, and then, as if remembering a lifetime of missed lap time, he launched into a marathon of cuddles. He purred like an engine, kneaded like a tiny baker, pressed his face against mine, and made the whole room feel warmer. There are so many ordinary moments that became extraordinary purely because of him. Watching him sleep with his mouth open. It sounds ridiculous to say it like that, but when he exhaled and his jaw loosened and a tiny tooth peeked out, I would catch myself laughing softly. He looked so absurd and vulnerable, a comic relief in fur. He claimed every soft surface like it belonged to him, as if the couch had always been waiting for his imprint. He'd follow me through rooms, tail high, like a little periscope searching for love. It started to feel undeniable. He was meant to be here, not just in this apartment, but in my life. I'd always fostered animals. It's one of those quiet obsessions that creeps up on you when you love creatures and you know that a temporary roof is better than none. I took in kittens from the local shelter whenever I could. What I did not expect was how earnestly Liam would take the title of foster dad. I should have guessed. Cats are full of surprises, but the depth of his tenderness was something that surprised even me. When I brought the first little nervous litter home, they were tiny, trembling things, ghosts made of fur and wide eyes. New smells filled my apartment, and the kittens flattened themselves into corners, frightened by something as simple as a hum in the air or the way light fell across the floor. Most animals take a while to accept strangers. These kittens were no exception. But Liam went through their trial like a patient teacher. He approached slowly, offering himself as a guide. He would sit near their hiding places without overwhelming them, let them come into contact with his scent, let them sniff and back away until curiosity tipped the scale. He settled in, steady, reassuring. It was the most beautiful thing to watch the transformation. Within days, fear dissolved into exploratory pounces and clumsy play. They used him as a trampoline, a climbing frame, the big soft world they were discovering. Kneading turned into wrestling. Purrs scattered like coins across the carpet. One kitten, Nayla, attached to him with a ferocity that made my chest ache. She chose Liam as if he were the axis of her tiny universe and immediately became his baby. She was always the little spoon in their vulnerable, tumbling naps. Sometimes I would find them curled with Nala, tucked perfectly into the curve of his body, sleeping so still that all I could do was stare and feel grateful. I have to tell you about the nursing thing. It was one of those absurd moments that cats give you just to remind you of how wonderfully odd they can be. These kittens would knead and bob against Liam's belly like he carried the milk of mothers inside him. He, being the dignified idiot of the household, just lay there and let them, a patient shepherd to a flock that did not entirely make sense. He would look at me with an expression somewhere between resignation and paternal pride, as if to say, "They're doing their thing, and I will absolutely not disturb it." I laughed until I cried more than once. The other kittens were shyer, slower to trust. There were nights when the smallest would hide in the folds of the laundry, and I'd half expect it to never come out. Liam had this knack, a soft gravitational pull. He'd bat at a toy, then lie down just far enough away that the kitten's curiosity won the war. He groomed them the way a mother would, lapping their tiny faces with a tenderness that suggested some ancestral memory pulsing back through him. He made them feel safe. He made them play. Every adoption day felt like a small heartbreak wrapped in joy. Packing them up with adoption papers and carriers, pointing them toward lives where they would be loved, it's always tear-inducing. I perform the foster parental oscillation of letting go with a practiced, uneven grace. Watching those kittens load into the cars of their new families, I'd feel proud and empty in the same breath. Still, the knowledge that they'd go to homes where they'd receive more care than I could offer in a rental apartment comforted me. It's the point, I remind myself. Prepare them, love them, and then send them into the world. When the house emptied back to just me and Liam, the space between us tightened into a different kind of intimacy. He reverted to being the clingiest, most theatrical cat I had ever known, and I welcomed it like a warm coat. Working from home became an elaborate dance choreography with a furry partner who insisted on participating. He would commandeer my desk, patting across the keyboard as if he could edit my emails with a flick of his paw. He'd position himself directly in front of the monitor, tail flicking in perfect timing with my deadlines, because from his perspective, my spreadsheets were clearly less important than the conversation we were supposed to be having. Mornings had a new ritual. My alarm would act like a trumpeter announcing his presence. Liam would be on me before I was properly upright, pawing at my face, urgent news that translated to, "Get up, human, the day is a thing, and we must investigate." He followed me into the bathroom, an absurd shadow weaving around my legs while I brushed my teeth. He supervised coffee making if he had no kittens to care for. I would have to do instead, sitting on the counter while steam and light combined into the domestic altar of our morning. When I dressed, he was there, sometimes batting at my socks as if they were interactive prey. Being chosen feels different than choosing. There's a gravity to being the one someone leans toward when the world tilts. One evening, as he lay like a faint shadow against my side, the weight of his trust pressed gently into my ribs, and I realized the depth of what this stray had offered me. Companionship, yes, and the peculiar, stubborn intimacy of an animal who has decided you are the axis of their little life. It's humbling and it's wildly tender. He's the resident comedian, too. Liam has an entire repertoire of absurdities. He gets the zoomies, those ridiculous bursts of energy where physics become optional, and he launches himself across the apartment in a blur of fur and intent. He gets stuck in places that logic could not anticipate, once in a paper bag, once behind the couch where I had to coax him out with the promise of treats and dignity. He chirps at birds with a rattling chatter that's half outside skill and half hysterical commentary on the audacity of the winged things. Each small, unplanned performance brightens an otherwise ordinary day. I think often about where he might have come from. What did streets teach him? How long had he been fending for himself? I imagine nights curled under a grate, or lunch stolen behind a dumpster, sun warming him on a stoop, and the hum of cars, his lullaby. Yet, despite whatever rough edges that life carved into him, he walked into my life with a trust that felt almost revolutionary. He trusted me with his belly, with the soft parts of himself, with his neediness. He trusted me to make the vet visit not a trauma, but a check-in, to give him warmth, to keep him safe. It's a trust that humbles me and asks something in return. Constancy. Food, yes, but also presence. Affection. The small daily confirmations that he is seen. Sometimes when he looks at me with those big round eyes, there's a quiet steadiness there. He seems to take inventory of who I am and choose me again. You don't always get those second choices from people. With animals, it happens casually. A head bump, a serendipitous leap into your lap. But it lands like a benediction. He saves me in ways that are practical and small. He reminds me to take breaks, to breathe, to watch a ridiculous cat video together for the crumbling solace of shared laughter. He saves me in ways that are emotional. A warm body beside me on a hard day. A purr that hums the edges of worry into something softer. I also carry the worry that comes with loving a former stray. The world is not always kind to cats, and every outing is a potential risk. I've learned to be watchful without smothering, to let him be curious while keeping a careful eye out for dangers. I had to learn about the small complexities of cat health care, about microchips and vaccinations, parasite prevention, and the subtle signs of illness that a street life masks in silence. Each vet visit was a little ceremony of care. Each improvement, each weight gain, each gleam restored to his coat felt like small victories in a prolonged rescue. There is joy for all with rescuing cats. I rescued him from the dangers of the street, yes, but he rescued me from the plainness of a life that lacked the joys animals create. He demanded my attention in ways that invited me to slow down. He made me make space on the couch and in my calendar. He made me laugh, and sometimes, embarrassingly, he made me cry at the simplest few minutes of kitten footage or a memory of Nala kneading his belly. He pulled me into a community, too. Neighbors who once waved vaguely now stop and ask after him. Other fosters exchange tips and cat ear emojis. We are linked by the shared, slightly radical notion that care matters. Sometimes, late at night, when the city sleeps, he will hop up and settle under my chin like a small, furry bookmark. He breathes in the rhythm of the home. Each exhale of his is a punctuation mark in the sentence of our life together. There is a small, private peace in being chosen by a creature for whom the world is an immediate thing. He doesn't worry about what he doesn't have. He delights in what is present. That's a generous perspective to soak up. I think often of the other strays in the neighborhood, the ones that never banged on my window or flopped at my feet. My heart tightens for them, their hunger pangs, their skittishness, the way the world is harder at the edges when you have to navigate it without hands to hold you. I hope they found soft spots, kind strangers, a bowl and a warm patch of pavement. Sometimes when I leave a dish out on the stoop, I imagine making the night better for just one cat. That will know somebody loves them. Being his human has reshaped the whole of my home life. I reorder my evenings because he expects company. I buy better blankets because he deserves proper nesting. I clear a space on my desk because he will not be denied the vantage point of watching me work. People sometimes say, "You saved him." No, he saved me, even if I didn't know it at the time. He reminded me, through his silly habits and earnest demands, of how to be present. He brought the world back into focus in small ways. The luxury of a mid-morning nap, the hilarity of a cat tangled in yarn, the consolation of purring when the news is loud and the world feels too much. He taught me patience as well. Rescuing a creature doesn't fix your life. It's slow work, repeated in tiny rituals. Feeding on schedule, vet visits, first caring for Liam, then caring with Liam for all our little waifs and strays. The most remarkable thing is seeing how he became a foster dad. I never stopped fostering lost cats just because I'd brought Liam into my life. I worried at first that Liam would become jealous of my affection. But he didn't. He nurtured them, cuddled them, and let them sleep on him at night. I was almost a little bit jealous that Liam offered them something I couldn't do. As a cat, Liam could teach them how to cat far better than I ever could. Pepper, Rose, Jim Bob, Fruit Bat, Unstoppable, Jiffy, all alumni of the Liam School of How to Be a Cat. He taught me how to be a better person. I wonder if I have a child, quite how good a stepdad Liam will prove to be. I don't know how long we have been together or how long we have left together. Time is limited for all of us. What I do know is this. The sight of him swinging from a window screen, determined and absurd, was the start of something that rippled out into everything, into the rhythm of my mornings, into the network of people I now call neighbors, into the little rituals that keep the heart steady. If anyone wants a summation of what rescue means, I would tell them this. It's not a heroic, dramatic moment so much as a series of acts of kindness. It is, often, a cat clinging to a screen until you notice him. It's a cat flopping at your feet like an offered prayer. It's the messy, glorious work of living with another being who trusts you unconditionally. It is the two of you helping others and helping so many kittens grow up to be beloved family pets. Liam is hunched on the windowsill now, eyes narrowed, tail flicking in the habitual chronicle of his contentment. I am so glad one afternoon Liam chose to spend the rest of his life with me. He went from clinging on a windowsill to clinging to me and me to him. He didn't just become my cat. He became my companion, my foster co-parent, my alarm clock, my work partner, my comic relief. Right now, we're getting ready for our next little batch of adoptive kittens.